foods.
But there's a lot of stuff coming out right now about the safety of our food.
Oh, yeah.
I keep hearing about this. It keeps showing up.
Yeah. Well, there was a big hearing in front of the Senate that Brigham Bueller, who was on yesterday, he was talking about it, in front of all these representatives, and they're trying to explain what the system is and how fucked it is and how there's most of these European countries and Canada, there's a lot of ingredients, particularly dyes that we use. Like, he was talking about how Lucky Charms that you buy in America, you can't sell it in Canada. They have to sell a completely different Lucky Charms in Canada because Canada doesn't allow all these dyes because they're toxic.
This is the super bright color thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are toxic dyes, and we allow them because we want people to. And there's also a bunch of other ingredients that make the food more addictive. Those are in our food supplies, and some of them are illegal in other countries. It's not good, and it seems like the way he was describing it is like the FDA is just completely overwhelmed. And they and then there's companies that are just pushing this stuff through, and it's kind of like the way we described it yesterday. It's like a hoarder's house. Like, how do you clean this up? Like, you get into a hoarder's house, you're like, oh God,
yeah.
Where do we fucking start? That's what our food system's like. Our food system is like a hoarder's house.
Well, I heard that guy. I don't remember his name. He's a venture capitalist. In the last week, you guys were talking about. He was saying that like when he travels abroad, he can eat whatever he wants, and then when he comes back to the U.S., he puts on weight.
Yes.
And
that was Chamath.
Yeah, that was a great one. He was incredibly intelligent, and then I was looking up something else popped up where they were saying that the bread in like Subway sandwiches is considered cake in Europe because of the sugar content.
Yeah, some countries consider it cake because it's mostly it's fucking cake.
Come on,
it's not
man.
really. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
We have bullshit food, and I don't eat most of that stuff, but if you do, you're going to be really unhealthy. And most people aren't educated. It took me a long time to understand this stuff, and mostly I tried to eat healthy before that, but mostly through the podcast and talking to people, getting an understanding of how bad the stuff really is for you, and then experimenting with diet and watching how much better my body felt, and seeing my friends who don't do it, and they just look like hell.
And you're mostly carnivore now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly fruits and mostly meat and fruits. Yeah. I hardly eat any vegetables at all, but I don't avoid them.
Yeah.
Like if I go out to dinner and I want to have a Caesar salad or something, I'll eat it. It doesn't seem to bother me. But what does seem to bother me is pasta. Pasta and breads really hit home. They really wreck me, but not in Europe. Went to Italy last summer, had pasta, had pizza, no problem at all.
But why? I don't understand why.
There's a bunch of things that we do. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. explained a lot of it. So did Gary Brecka. He explained a lot of it. One of them is enriched flour, what's so-called enriched flour. It contains a bunch of chemicals like folic acid and a bunch of shit your body has a hard time digesting. It's also, they use heirloom wheat in Italy, and heirloom wheat is the original wheat. What we did was we changed wheat to make higher yield, so that a smaller piece of land, you can get more wheat out of it. So because of that, it has more complex glutens, makes it more difficult for your body to process. And then on top of that, the big one may be, there's a lot of speculation about this, but there's some serious evidence that most people who eat the common American diet, the number of the people that had Roundup in their system. So glyphosate.
What?
Yeah, glyphosate is a really powerful pesticide that they spray on all kinds of different plants, and I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 90% of people tested had glyphosate in their system.
Roundup.
Yes,
the stuff
Roundup
you spray
in
to
their
just
blood.
kill everything.
Exactly. And
great.
it's illegal in some countries and should be illegal in America. But the problem is, if you make it illegal, how are these monocrop agriculture companies going to function? Okay, it's 80%.
It's 87% of children.
87% of children. So this is 2022. I would imagine this goes up every year. 80% of Americans have Roundup in their urine. That is so crazy. That's so dangerous.
That's terrifying.
And it's also fairly new in terms of human history. I think Roundup has only been around since is it the 90s? When did glyphosate start becoming ubiquitous on crops? It's fucking dangerous, man, because we're rolling the dice. A lot of the stuff that people eat causes long-term health consequences. And so when you're dealing with short-term stuff, like stuff that's only been around for 5-6 years, it takes a long time before you figure out what's happening. Also, 74, Roundup, which contains active ingredients glyphosate, was first introduced to commercial agriculture in 74. So scroll down so we can see like when it like ramps up. So 74. Okay, it wasn't widely used until 96. That's what I read. So Monsanto began selling genetically modified seeds that were resistant to Roundup. This allowed farmers to spray their entire crop beds with Roundup without risking losing their crop. It's an herbicide, right? Yeah, okay. Not a pesticide, an herbicide. But it's fucking terrible for you. Terrible. And 80% of people have it in their blood.
Roundup, microplastics, DDT.
Yeah.
And then what was it? I think it was during the gold rush times that everybody was using lead to replug cans after they opened them, and then thousands of people died from lead poisoning before they figured it out.
Shane Gillis has a great joke about George Washington. George Washington's dentures were made out of lead. And that's why George Washington was such a fucking psycho. He had like lead poisoning.
He wasn't brave. He was just insane.
I read that when they were talking about the amount of plastic that people find, like most men have plastic in their sperm, plastic in their testicles, you have plastic in your brain, and a lot of that plastic is the plastic that's derived from PVC. So it's coming from water pipes.
I thought our water pipes are metal.
Some water pipes are metal, but when I used to do construction, we did a lot of houses where they used PVC pipes.
Yeah, see, this is
a lot of PVC pipes underneath kitchen sinks and stuff. So all that stuff, when water's going through that, you're picking up these little particles of plastic, and those little particles of plastic, you cook your food in it, you drink a glass of water from the tap. All that stuff is getting you plastic. And then there's cooking in microwave. If you have like one of those things you lift up, and have a piece of plastic over the lid, and you microwave it, and it's in a plastic bowl. That's all fucking getting into your body. That's all getting in your blood.
Well, I scared myself with that because we had plastic cups on an expedition, and we boiled coffee, and then I poured it into the plastic cup, and I was like, we got to stop doing this. So we started bringing like metal and glass cups on expeditions.
Obviously, they make stuff for campers that you can get, and that's why we switched these steel cups here. We used to just go through so many bottles of water. I was like, this is fucked. So we bought a filtration system and and started using steel cups, but it's like this whole thing in America. One of the things we talked about yesterday with Brigham is the Make America Healthy Again movement, which is Robert Kennedy Jr. and a bunch of other folks that are involved in this. And it's exciting that this is gaining steam because people are concerned about their health, and they are concerned about all the different chemicals that are in your fucking food. But the problem is now that's been attached to right-wing ideology.